All right, everybody, welcome. This week, we're going to have a short and sometimes difficult conversation. Last week on the show, we shared some of our observations about the founders we're speaking with that are showing consistent progress in their business last year. And I want to talk about probably the first place right after like the top line numbers that almost every coaching call, every advisory, even when I went to my business coaches, this is where it all starts with this conversation. And the reason is because it's our number one investment, our number one expense, and it's not only is the magnitude large, but our degree of control is very large. And we often avoid it. And when I'm speaking with founders, I notice them wincing when this topic comes up, yet we press forward because, again, this is correlated with businesses that are making progress. So, of course, I am talking about the staff audit. I just want to go over it in detail. It's very simple, and you don't have to go talk to anybody just yet, but I want you to consider maybe that you're putting off some important decisions that could move the business forward. I can certainly relate to this. And so I just want to take a few minutes here for us to consider it together. And I want to hear your thoughts. Y'all know my email. But I'm telling you, this is so simple, but also very difficult for so many of us. And I'll try to explore some of the reasons why that could be. Now, on our GPS document, which is where we conceptualize our business, goals, plans, systems, one of the audit questions is, would you rehire your team today? But on call, would you rehire your team today if given the opportunity? What I'm continuing to notice is that great founders not only ask that question more regularly, but they act on it more regularly. It's not just a hypothetical to those who are making progress. So I want to walk you through how these calls go, the questions we ask, not just would you rehire them, and then we skip past it and talk about our strategies and our new ideas and our new initiatives. But we actually hang out on that question for a long time and press on the details, even when we wince about it, because we know maybe not the best decision, maybe I'll solve it here. No, let's hang out. This is often our biggest investment, our biggest expense, and our biggest opportunity to make progress. I'm just going to walk you through 10 questions here. You can pull up a Google Doc, a spreadsheet. You can just do it in your mind as I walk through. Think of all the folks that work for you, your direct reports. Who's currently working for you? Question number one. What are their names? What are their positions? What key outputs and results are they accountable for? When did you initially hire them? Question number three. Number four, what have they gotten done in the last 90 days? Number five, would you rehire them today, that specific person, at the rate they're at now? Number six, do you feel supported by them? Number seven, are they supporting or owning your most important projects? Question number eight, what is their attitude like? Question number nine, how often and in what ways are they managed? And number 10, is there anything you could do to help them dramatically improve their output and effectiveness in the business? We ask these 10 questions in order to avoid some of the common mistakes that we all make. Number one, a general resistance to managing people. So many of us obviously started businesses because we didn't like being managed. We didn't like managing people necessarily. And so we avoid making these changes that have the potential to make such enormous impact on our business. So perhaps you could, instead of managing people, you could think of it as managing investments. The second common mistake is that because it can often just be, say a few $1,000s a month, we act like this capital isn't critically important to our growing business, our bootstrap business. On the other side, on our personal balance sheets, we'll often invest hundreds of thousands of dollars, say in a real estate investment, just to make that few $1,000s a month. And now we're letting it leak out because we're often simply avoiding what we feel like is a difficult conversation. But if you make these numbers real, you can see the difficulty this could be presenting to your business. Just a few $1,000s a month could be an enormous stockpile of capital at the end of the year. And we should treasure that. That is the opportunity for our business to grow and to improve. You're making an investment. Number 3 mistake is taking the concept of, quote, being a good person to the extreme. We're using a sense of kindness and devotion, responsibility, simply as a way of delaying a difficult and often inevitable conversation. And it doesn't always need to be that person needs to leave. Maybe that person needs to change their role. Maybe they need to change the way they're getting paid to a results-based or to an hourly based, or perhaps it's not the right fit. Maybe they know it too. And it's worth having the conversation. This is the whole idea behind scorecards. Of course, they help us to conceptualize why a role exists and what the role is intended to do in the company in terms of productive outputs. But really, it's a hack to having more regular, important conversations about how that person is contributing to the bottom line of the business. Number 4, common mistake is hiring people for tasks you shouldn't be doing anyway, or a task that you thought was a good idea at the time, 6 months ago, 6 years ago. And these things change super quick in our business, yet we've changed the business direction, and it's like a ski boat or whatever. The person's lagging behind and following the arc of the turn slowly and inefficiently. And this is from my experience past year. Like, there's definitely founders in each camp, and I'm seeing great results from the founders who act quicker on making these changes. The 5th mistake, simply we're solving it here today, is not auditing staff enough. This doesn't mean micromanaging. It doesn't mean spending more time on management. It just means applying your energy intelligently. It's common for us to, for example, spend a lot of time being frustrated about the productivity of our decisions, of our team's decisions, but yet not doing exercises like this that could take 20 minutes and could give us clarity for us, for our team. Everybody wants to be successful and wants to be productive, but it's on us to be the leaders on this most 9 times out of 10. I think a lot of us expect our teams to do this for us, but fundamentally that's great if they can, and some great team members certainly do. And obviously your leadership team ought to be able to do it, but ultimately it falls on us to do these things, whether we like it or not. And then finally, the mistake is just generally speaking, and it's totally understandable, just our general avoidance of change management. And I think in particular with bootstrappers, do a lot to convince people to get into their organization, who really value the contributions, work closely with your team. A lot of the founders that we work with that have a background in high growth tech, they have a different mindset about these sorts of conversations because I think they've been exposed to them more regularly. Whereas for a lot of us, maybe we didn't work in the high growth tech sector and we come from a different background where jobs are sacred and they're super important and we're proud that we can offer them. And then we forget a little bit that we actually are bootstrappers and we're running startups and dynamic small organizations. And this is par for the course, whether it's changing jobs often, whether it's getting promoted often. Sometimes we can provide consistency. In our case, we've been able to do a lot of that in our careers. It really depends on the financial logic and the consistency of the business that you're running. For a lot of us, there's inconsistency in the business. In the best case, that would correlate with a dynamic quality of your team. And if those two things aren't matching up, you could be stalling your ability to get to that next level. And just a final thought on this. Yes, there's relationships behind this, but also our employees are our dearest investments. And it's our responsibility to revisit this stuff regularly to get the maximum amount of return and be as capital efficient as time. We only have 2 vectors really to improve our business outside of market conditions and luck. We've got our time and we've got our capital, and our team represents our biggest capital investment. The final thing is a common response to this is that revenue will solve the problem. Like, I'm teamed up. If I just get some revenue in here, I'm all good. Of course, it doesn't typically follow with that kind of justification that your team's going to help you get that revenue, that now all the sort of burden rests on you and your capital isn't aiding you to go out and achieve that growth. That is an inefficient structure, and it's one that we often find ourselves in as bootstrappers. So more revenue does not solve inefficiencies. It might cover up this thing for a while, but it will certainly stall your ability to change for the better. I'm not saying you got to do anything about it today, but I am encouraging you, if you've gotten a spare 20 minutes this week to do your own staff audit, email me and let me know what you discovered.